Welcome to Proven and Probable. I'm your host, Maurice Jackson, and joining me today is the CEO of Orezone Gold Corporation, Ron Little. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Sir, you're one of the exhibitors here at the Sprott Natural Resources Symposium in Vancouver. It's quite a distinction. If you would, share with current and prospective investors the story of Orezone.
Happy to. We've all starts in Burkina Faso, West Africa. We've been there over 20 years now. We've had a lot of success in the country. The biggest mine in the country we were building and discovered back in 2008. We were taken over by IAMGOLD. Subsequent to that takeover, we've now developed a second large project, which ultimately we think is going to be larger than the one we sold, of course. And through the difficult market of the last 5 years, we've still advanced it to a permitting stage. We think we're going to get the mining permit in the coming weeks, which should be one of our big catalysts for the share price. Once we have the permit, we ultimately hope to start construction around the second quarter next year. So in the short term, we're arranging the financing. It's $250 million to build the mine. Our market cap is about 150, so we'd like to see our stock price get over preferably $300 million before we do the last bit of equity. But we're really working on a debt facility, looking to kind of bring the team back together that we had before. And because it's been several years since that mine has been finished by IAMGOLD, we've got interest from lots of other operators in the country to come and join us, because the project is just sitting on the main highway outside the capital city. It's about 50 miles from town, which is an ideal location anywhere in the world, let alone in Africa. And local guys can work and go home at night, which is also unusual for a mining operation. So we've got a great project. We've got a draw for people, and we're in a country where you've seen 9 mines built in 10 years. And anybody that has a question about political risk, I think you just have to look at this as a really unique country. It's driven on its mining revenues now, and they want more mines.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Speaking of size, you mentioned size earlier. Let's talk about Bomboré. That's quite an exciting development you have there. Share with the investors the open pit opportunity here, and just fill us in on that if you would.
Absolutely, yeah. The project is really the largest footprint in the country. When you discover these things, you mostly start in Africa with a soil anomaly. It's over 14 kilometers long, and it's still open. And we've outlined an open pit scenario, several pits at surface that span about 11 kilometers or over 6 miles. And the ore body's up to 1 kilometer wide in places. So we've got the ability to build this in 2 phases. As you would find in Africa, the top 50 meters or 50 yards more or less is oxidized. It's mostly free digging material, so it's very cheap mining and cheap processing. And you can start with a lower capital number to build that first. We have already drilled and studied all of the material underneath it. But because it's so long, we've only drilled it down to about 120 meters.
Okay. And
the one we sold IAMGOLD, for example, we had to drill that to over 300 meters to get to 5 million ounces. We've only drilled to 120. So that, if you divide the math on that, we're getting about 30 to 40,000 ounces per vertical meter, and that's your nuts and bolts economics. If you don't have to go very deep, your mining costs, your trucking and haulage is much cheaper.
Speaking of economics, let's talk about the all-in sustaining costs. I think most investors, what is that number? According to last year's numbers, if I'm not mistaken, it was $678?
That's correct. Yeah, I think to give you 2 points on that, it's a large ore body, it's a 1 gram grade. And in reality, some people say, gee, that's a low number. But when you've got surface mining and you have a low strip ratio, meaning 1 ton of ore to get to 1 ton of waste to get to 1 ton of ore, we have low cyanide consumption, we have no cement agglomeration, which is typical for a heap leach with soft material. So we've got all these other parameters that give us a low all-in sustaining number. So I'd encourage anybody to look at it that's grade sensitive. Don't stop at 1 gram. look at the all-in sustaining number, and as you mentioned, that was last year's number. It's still 1 year old, it's a fresh study, but since then the euro has dropped.
Yes.
The biggest benefit to Burkina, it's an old French colony and the currency is pegged to the euro. So many investors are buying Canadian operating companies because there's a great Forex trade on the Canadian dollar. Well, it's virtually the same for anybody operating in euros, and that's essentially what we have in Burkina. And the fuel price has dropped. Burkina does add a surtax, and it does kind of subsidize fuel for local people. So it's sticky on the way down, but it has come down quite a bit. So there's about a 10% improvement on the dollar or the euro, the 10% improvement on fuel, and many other consumables are down. So that study, we're below 678. We're somewhere between probably 600 and 678.
That is quite impressive. Kudos to you. If you would, for investors, if they want to get more information, give us the website and best way to contact you, sir.
Absolutely. Find us at orezone.com, www.orezone.com. We trade on the Venture Exchange under the symbol ORE. And of course, you can reach us in Ottawa. Happy to take your call.
Well, sir, Ron Little, thank you for joining us today on Proven Improbable.
Thank you, Maurice.
All the best, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today on Proven and Probable. Remember to like and subscribe for more conversations with the most respected names in the natural resource space. Check out our website at www.provenandprobable.com. The information presented on Proven and Probable is provided for educational and informational purposes only, without any express or implied warranty of any kind, including warranties of accuracy, completeness, or fitness for any particular purpose. The information is not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, or trading advice, or any other advice. You should not make any financial, investment, or trading decision based on any of the information presented without first undertaking independent due diligence and consultation with a professional broker or competent financial advisor.